Hey, what's up everyone, TNRI here. Our today's guest is Damian Young, the CEO and co-founder of ZEUS Scooters, which is another startup that operates in over 15 cities with thousands of vehicles. They recently raised a round of 2 million euros, which will allow them to grow even further. Nevertheless, meet Damian.
I founded ZEUS in September 2019, which was just really a kind of an idea of, looking at on the micromobility market, looking at some differentiation in the kind of scooter market. And I spent a bit of time just kind of understanding the market a little bit more and understanding people's preferences and, what they felt about electric scooters as a means of transport and of micromobility. And I suppose that led me to the design of the three-wheel scooter. And I suppose the idea of the three-wheel scooter really was to, I suppose, attract a wider audience for micromobility, because the experience in a lot of markets was that this was very much a market for your kind of 17, 16-year-olds up to 28, 29. And, a lot of the antisocial behavior also kind of associated with that age group. So, whereas when I look at this market, I think that it actually, has a significant function in society in terms of, that last mile transport, but also for the environment, for decongestion of cities and so on. And therefore, as a mode of transport, it needs to appeal to a far wider audience than your kind of under 30s. And that's what was led us to develop the three-wheel scooter. What we also, wanted to ensure is that, safety seems to be a big concern of cities and various geographies. And we wanted something that was a little bit safer, a little bit more stable as well, in that, you don't see as many of these scooters on the ground and so on because of the three wheels. But also they're smoother as well. So I suppose the shock is absorbed into all three wheels and therefore not into the body of the rider. So the experience is smoother. So that's what kind of led us to do that. And we, September 2019 really was the start, and that was literally just the idea and registration of the business. And I suppose our focus then for the following kind of 7-8 months was at a very rapid pace, was really the design of the scooter, the building of the software, the production of the scooter, but also then before that the testing. So we underwent very rigorous testing in the German market, and we received our ABE license, which is the Federal Transport Authority's license for vehicles on German roads. And we also then started engaging with the cities in Germany to look at deploying micromobility in cities that were not the big cities. So our focus is actually on smaller cities and even towns. We have a number of deployments in much smaller locations. And again, the reason for that is because, I think that micromobility is not just something for big cities. Transport is required for every city, and therefore we adopt a very kind of different model for our scooter deployment. We only deploy very small fleets to start with, and then we will build up in accordance to demand. The company's name is Eco Urban Scooters. We thought that when we registered that name for the company, it was a bit long, I suppose, for a catchy on a scooter name. So we came up with the word with the name ZEUS, and I suppose the reason for the name of the company is, we wanted something that was, strong and powerful, like the god, but also associated with electricity. And as you know, Zeus is the god of thunder and lightning. And I suppose the Z in ZEUS is our logo. and the EUS actually stands for Eco Urban Scooters, which is our company name. So the brand name is ZEUS, and we trade as ZEUS in the German market. So that's like some of the background, and we launched then in June in Heidelberg, and we had a very small fleet in Heidelberg of about 40 scooters, I suppose, to test the market. And since then we've expanded to now 16 cities throughout Germany, with varying size fleets in each. And because we're in the winter now and with COVID lockdowns and so on, some of the fleets are kind of quite small. But the capacity for the fleet is that we would hope to grow those fleets in the market to about 4,000 by the spring of this year. So at the moment we have about 1,500 scooters, and we would be expanding the fleets in the existing cities through kind of spring 2021, once the weather gets better and COVID gets better and everything else gets better.
And you were already in talks with 28 cities previously.
We've actually, at the last count, we have about 51 cities that we're engaging with. Wow. Obviously not in Germany, but around mostly Europe, that we are engaging with. We won't expand that many because obviously it will be a slower expansion, but we would hope to be in 30 cities by the end of this year. So the expansion will be in Germany, but it'll also be in other markets, including our home market, Ireland, where the legislation for micromobility has not yet been finalized, but we would hope that would be finalized in Q2 of this year. And therefore we would be looking to deploy there in before the summer market. We also have approval from the Department for Transport in the UK, and we're selectively looking at cities in the UK. And then we're in active discussions with a number of cities in Sweden, in Spain, in Italy, a number of other places as well. We also kind of do like to work closely with the cities themselves. So we did introduce what we call a give back program. And I suppose that give back program is all about returning, I suppose, some of the income generated from citizens and residents of the city back to charitable causes in the city.
And you really believe that three-wheelers is the future?
I don't believe that there is any kind of one type of model that's the future. I think the future is the kind of innovation around your vehicle, whether it's the sensors within the vehicle to increase safety. I think you could see it from the market that the scooters have evolved even in the last 2 years, since they've been deployed. You've got different versions of scooters from the main companies. So I think it's good that each of the companies is upgrading their scooters and coming out with new kind of innovations around kind of battery charging, around safety, around electronic sensors, those type of things. So I think it's not just the three-wheel. I think the three-wheel is different, and it has proven to be, I suppose, a little bit more stable and smoother. But we also have a two-wheel version. So we designed a two-wheel version for the UK market. So we also have a small fleet of two-wheel scooters.
And you also do operations with swappable batteries, yeah, I suppose?
All the fleet is swappable batteries, but we are looking at the next kind of what is the next step on the batteries, and we are looking at some innovations around the batteries and the battery charging, and how that's done as well. But it was important from the start that we had swappable batteries, because I think just from an operations point of view, it doesn't make sense to be lifting scooters off the road just to charge them, and it's very hard to have kind of mobile charging units because they do take some time to charge. So the swappable batteries was an absolute must. And I think we were actually the first company in Germany to launch its fleet with swappable batteries. We're trying to be lean in terms of our operations and profitable ultimately. And we hope to get to profitability in this calendar year. So which again will be unusual because I don't think there's any other micromobility company that has turned a profit in the European market, and that's what we're aiming to do.
A big part of your life you spent in the banking industry. What kind of pushed you to study for banking? Was it like your family?
Well, I actually my initial degree was in marketing. And then I joined a bank. Yeah, you're actually right. It was something that was in the family. But I joined the bank thinking that, this is a job that I can, get paid for a few years and, then find something better. But I ended up staying with the bank for 25 years. And I, during the bank, I studied banking. So I have a degree in financial services and a master's in business as well, which was all done through the banking. And then in 2014, I decided to, I suppose, branch out, and I was appointed as a managing director for a US based software company who are building software and analytics for the banking industry. So I led that business in Europe and also in the APAC region. So I was based out of Melbourne in Australia as well for a number of years on that side of it. And then I came back to Ireland, and I worked briefly as managing director for a kind of logistics company. And then, as I say, in September 2019, I decided to use that 30 years of experience in business to start my own business. So again, I mean, I'd be very familiar with the kind of the financial side of businesses and what needs to be achieved. So when you look at our own accounts, for a startup business that is trading for 6 months, it's not, it doesn't look too bad, right? But obviously I want to focus on building the business from a financial perspective and ensuring that we don't take on major costs and that we're efficient in operations. But we're still a long way from that, CK. I mean, like I would be lying if I said we were really efficient in operations. It's very hard, when you don't know what's going to happen. But the good thing is that every day we make some incremental improvement to be more efficient. And from that perspective, I can see that we will get to an optimal level later on this year.
What kind of pushed you towards switching from the more corporate lifestyle to risking it and starting a business?
Well, I suppose I've always been kind of a very entrepreneurial spirit. I was the director for small business in the bank. So that got me working with a lot of startups and a lot of early stage and dynamic kind of businesses. The company, the software company that I worked for was an early stage business as a growing business. But I suppose the corporate lifestyle, the decision making, the conservatism and so on just doesn't fit with my personality. And it took me nearly 30 years to realize that.
And who was the person who influenced the most?
I've been exposed to a lot of kind of entrepreneurs, and I like the entrepreneurial spirit. So, all of the well-known ones, I think, people like Richard Branson and, so on, these are people that risked a lot to be successful, but always kept that kind of, positive spirit on what they were doing, even though the world might have been against them. And I do see that as well, like in even in this business. I mean, the banks that I worked for many years are absolutely not interested in this business or any other startup. So it's kind of, you have to fight your own way through it. So that's part of what keeps me going, you know.
Does it also then reflect in the way how you manage the company and like the culture you've built as well around it?
Yeah, I think the company, you know, in terms of decision making, we're very quick in terms of decision making. You know, the team that I have are making, you know, decisions for the business every day. You know, it's not going through any kind of corporate layers and so on. We will make mistakes as a result, but so long as we learn from those mistakes, I think, you know, we will get stronger and we'll get better. So yeah, I'm trying to ensure that the culture of the organization or the business is also that entrepreneurial culture, that new ideas, new innovations, a bit, you know, to be a bit different and to look at the wider market and so on, that we want to do. So we'll try to build that in to our culture as well.
ZEUS is definitely taking a big part of your life as well at the moment, but how else you kind of balance it with the rest of your time?
Unfortunately, I'm not too good at balancing things.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose, yeah, the ZEUS has kind of consumed most of my time over the last, you know, 12-15 months, but as I think, you know, for an early stage business, I think it's kind of necessary to roll up the sleeves and get things done. But what I would hope is that as we start getting a rhythm and building the company, that I can rebalance my own life then and spend time on other things as well. So that would be the hope. But at the moment, unfortunately it's kind of 100%.
Then how do you deal with the stress or like making difficult decisions as well?
You know, I mean, every day has some difficult decisions, and you know, you just have to make them as best you can in terms of what's right for the business and what's right for chance that you're looking at. So I suppose every day we have those. Sometimes, yeah, it does stress me. You know, in terms of where we are. I mean, at the moment, it's actually a very difficult market in Germany because, you know, COVID, lockdowns, curfews, snow. You know, it's absolutely the worst condition that you could possibly be trading in. I suppose the way I look at it, though, is okay, it is very poor, but it does also give us an opportunity to refine our things like our operations and to build the next stage of the business and to build our kind of production so that we're ready for when this goes and when it goes and when anything else goes. So we just have to use that time, the time when, you know, the environment is difficult, to build for the future. So that's really what kind of keeps me going, is about today, but more about in 2 months' time and 6 months' time and 12 months' time.
What kind of advice would you give to people who also like left the corporate to just also risk it all and start something of their own?
The advice is, I mean, you know, in terms of people who are leaving corporate, not to underestimate the experience that they have gained from the corporate world. I probably valued the experience I gained from the corporate world more when I left. And, you know, all of that experience is your raw materials for your own business. So I think it is you know, it is right for people to leverage what they've learned from the corporate world. But also, when you say what they've learned, is also taking the other things that they've learned, the bad things, and trying to make it a little bit different for their own business. So I think people can bring a lot from the corporate world into business. I think there is certainly life beyond it, as in, setting up a business can be very stressful, but it can also be very fulfilling. because your achievements are, I suppose, recognized by all. It's not. It's it's a little bit different than achieving something in the corporate world. So I would always recommend. I've always been a big fan of entrepreneurs and encouraging entrepreneurs and even young entrepreneurs. I mean, the guy that we're working with in Würzburg is in his final year in university actually. And I think he needs the encouragement. But what I suppose younger entrepreneurs probably need is both the encouragement and that passion that they have, but also support and mentorship from people with wider, broader, longer experience, to have somebody that they can, pick up the phone to or drop an email or a text to, when they have a problem, because I think with their passion and with some experience behind them from other people, I think that young entrepreneurs can be even more successful.
And did you have a person like that who would help you out in a difficult minute?
I have a business partner as well, who is kind of the opposite to me, and he's very good in certain areas that maybe I wouldn't be as good in. And a big part of my kind of experience actually came when I did my MBA, where I had with a small group of, executives from different organizations, different disciplines, but that was 10 years ago when I graduated from that, and to this day, all of us in that group are constantly in communications and asking each other for advice and what do you think of this and so on. So building that kind of network of various people is really important. And that's the advantage, I suppose, of having kind of the longer experience, is that you build up those networks. So there's several people that I would refer to or lean on for advice and support.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, comment, follow and share. More content coming. Stay safe, TNRI out.